There is a stark warning that's now public from the Iran's rogue regime. A senior commander saying that any attack by Israel would force them to attack the United States, which would touch off a broader war. General Jack Keen's a Fox News military analyst, four-star general, former vice chief of staff of the Army. And, sir, hello to you from London today. You provided a number of notes here. And I want to go through these just so we have an understanding of where you are and what the situation perhaps could be. You believe Iran does not think the U.S. would conduct a military strike. Why not?
Well, I think they've looked at the Obama administration and characterized their actions in this way. They publicly and privately, they've tried to keep the Israelis from conducting a military strike. And I think the Iran's interpretation of that is the United States is not serious about a military strike of their own and also wants to stop the Israelis from doing so. And that's the conclusion I believe they have drawn.
Okay, so you also say Iran believes the U.S. does not want Israel to conduct a military strike, which is something that you have stated before with us. But if Iran struck U.S. bases, as they have now threatened to do, in fact, we can show a map which is within reach of Israeli missiles. You have areas in Qatar, a base in Bahrain. You have all these U.S. personnel, soldiers and Marines working in Afghanistan. What would happen? What would Iran do? Would they strike out against us, or is that a hollow threat?
I don't think so. I mean, look, no one knows for sure what the Iranians would do. I mean, they are unpredictable. But I think when you look at it coldly and hardly, I mean, the reality is this. The Iranians, I believe, would avoid military confrontation with the United States at all costs. And why is that? Because the United States is the only country that could defeat their military and change out their regime. So even though the Israelis would attack, I think the Iranian response would be a limited response against the Israelis and avoid any direct confrontation with the United States. Certainly attacking our bases would put them squarely at war with the United States. I think closing the Straits of Hormuz would do the very same thing. So while we don't know for sure what they would do, and this is rhetoric, I don't think they would do it.
You believe they would use Hamas and Hezbollah?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they would rain on the Israelis with the rockets, the mortars, and the missiles that they have provided to the Lebanon Hezbollah and also to the Hamas. I mean, Syria has provided that capability, and so has the Iranians. Whether they do direct missile attack against major cities like Tel Aviv and Jerusalem from Iran is another calculus they'll have to weigh, because if that's very severe, the Israelis could ask the United States for help, and that would again put us at war with the Iranians.
But just to be clear on this, you believe that Iran thinks that Israel would launch a preemptive strike?
I believe the Israelis are heading towards a preemptive strike because our sanctions and our policy with the Iranians is feckless. It's not strong enough to stop them from developing a nuclear program, and I believe the Israelis at some point will conduct this operation because they have no alternative. They believe it's an existential threat, and although they have less capability than we do, I believe that they have come to the conclusion that they have no alternative.
But to be clear, if Israel starts that strike, can they finish the war?
What Israelis would do would be a limited strike against the Iranians' nuclear capabilities. I think they would be very careful not to expand that strike into the larger military capacity of the Iranians, which would create a very different response from the Iranians to Israel. So it would be a limited strike, as comprehensive against the nuclear capability, but limited in terms of what it would do with the rest of Iran's capability.
Got it. But to finish that job, would Israel need the United States?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have greater capabilities than the Israelis do. We can't get into all of it, but yes, they want some of our technical capability that they do not have. And I would hope that if they got ready to do this attack, and we're not going to participate with them, we would at least give them some of the capacity that we have.
Yeah, a lot of this attention goes to the head of the Revolutionary Guards out of Tehran, who was making comments over the weekend talking about war between Iran and Israel eventually happening. This is his quote, but it is not certain where and when. And he also talks about nothing is predictable, much like you have just reiterated to our audience here, but that it would turn into World War III. What do you make of that?
Well, I think it's mostly posturing, clearly, because I believe the audience there is Washington, D.C., and they want us to put more pressure on the Israelis not to do the attack because of the results and calamity that he is suggesting would happen as a result of an attack like that. So I think that's what they're trying to do. United States pressure Israel not to do the attack. We put that pressure on them before, and here's the Iranians, while not saying it directly, implying that's what we should do.
General Jack Keane, thank you, sir. Good luck on your travels there in London. We'll see you back in New York soon.